The Whispering Shadows. Chapter 1, The Escape. In the dead of night, the moon hid behind thick clouds, casting a deep darkness over the countryside. At the edge of the town of Ravensbrück stood the Ravensbrück Asylum, a looming structure with iron gates and towering walls meant to contain society's most dangerous minds. One of those minds belonged to Victor Holloway, a notorious psychopath known for his sadistic tendencies and genius-level intellect. He had been locked away for years, but tonight, the unthinkable happened. Victor escaped. The alarms blared through the asylum, a cacophony of sound as guards scrambled to find him. Victor moved like a shadow, using his intimate knowledge of the asylum's layout to evade capture. With the aid of a stolen uniform and a hidden passage known only to a few, he slipped into the night, leaving chaos in his wake. Chapter 2, The Arrival. Ravensbrück was a small, close-knit town where everyone knew each other. The news of Victor's escape spread like wildfire, and fear gripped the hearts of the townsfolk. Sheriff Nolan, a seasoned lawman with a sharp mind, took charge of the situation. He organized patrols, set up curfews, and reassured the people, but a sense of impending doom lingered. Days passed with no sign of Victor. People began to breathe a little easier, believing he had fled far from Ravensbrück. But Victor was closer than they imagined, hiding in plain sight, observing, and planning his next move. Chapter 3, The First Strike. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a chilling scream pierced the air. The townsfolk gathered at the old Miller house, where young Emily Miller had gone missing. Her parents were frantic, and the search party found a trail of blood leading to the nearby woods. Deep within the forest, they discovered a gruesome scene: Emily's lifeless body, posed in a macabre display, with a note pinned to her dress that read, "The game begins." Panic spread through Ravensbrück. People locked their doors and windows, afraid to venture out after dark. Victor reveled in the fear he had sown, his mind whirling with twisted plans. He sent cryptic messages to the sheriff, taunting him, challenging him to catch the elusive hunter. Chapter 4, The Investigation. Sheriff Nolan worked tirelessly, poring over every clue, every piece of evidence. He enlisted the help of Dr. Lydia Carter, a brilliant psychologist who had studied Victor's case extensively. Together, they tried to anticipate his next move, but Victor was always one step ahead. Victor's next victim was an elderly woman named Martha who lived alone on the outskirts of town. Her death was particularly brutal. Her house turned into a grotesque gallery of Victor's madness. Again, he left a note: fear the shadows. Chapter 5, The Hunter Becomes the Hunted. One night, Sheriff Nolan and Dr. Carter devised a plan to lure Victor out. They staged a fake incident, hoping to draw him into a trap. For a moment, it seemed to work. Victor appeared, his presence a chilling reminder of the evil lurking in the town. But as they moved to capture him, he vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a chilling message: "I am the shadow." Victor's understanding of human nature was his greatest weapon. He exploited the townspeople's fears, turning neighbor against neighbor, creating paranoia and distrust. Ravensbrück was tearing itself apart from the inside. Chapter 6, The Revelation. As the body count rose, Sheriff Nolan discovered a pattern. Each victim had a connection to Victor's past, a slight, or wrong, or an act of betrayal. He realized that Victor's killings were not random but part of a twisted vendetta. The sheriff and Dr. Carter delved into Victor's history, uncovering dark secrets and buried sins. In a shocking twist, they found that Victor's escape was not entirely his doing. Someone on the inside had helped him, someone with a personal vendetta against Ravensbrück. The traitor was Dr. Samuel Rook, a respected figure in the community who had once been Victor's mentor. Dr. Rook had orchestrated the escape, believing that Victor's reign of terror would expose the town's corruption and hypocrisy. Chapter 7, The Final Confrontation. With this new information, Sheriff Nolan and Dr. Carter confronted Dr. Rook. He confessed to his role in Victor's escape but insisted that the town deserved to face its demons. As they questioned him, Victor struck again, this time targeting Dr. Carter. She was abducted, and the town held its breath, knowing the final showdown was imminent. Sheriff Nolan tracked Victor to an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. The building was a labyrinth of shadows and echoes, the perfect setting for Victor's endgame. Inside, the sheriff found Dr. Carter, bound and gagged, but alive. Victor emerged from the darkness, his eyes gleaming with madness. A deadly game of cat and mouse ensued, the sheriff and the psychopath circling each other. Victor's traps were clever, but Nolan's determination was unyielding. In a final, desperate struggle, Nolan managed to overpower Victor, ending his reign of terror once and for all. Chapter 8: The Aftermath. Ravensbrück slowly began to heal, but the scars of Victor's rampage remained. The town came together, stronger and more united, determined to rebuild and move forward. Dr. Rook was imprisoned, his betrayal a stark reminder of the darkness that can hide behind the most trusted faces. Sheriff Nolan and Dr. Carter became local heroes, their bravery and resilience a beacon of hope. But in the quiet moments, when the wind whispered through the trees and shadows danced in the moonlight, the memory of Victor Holloway lingered, a haunting reminder of the evil that once stalked the night. And somewhere, in the deepest recesses of the asylum, a whisper echoed through the halls: the shadows never truly fade. Chapter 9: The Lingering Shadows. Months turned into years, and Ravensbrück slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. The town remembered Victor Holloway with a mixture of fear and loathing, but life moved on. Sheriff Nolan and Dr. Carter became close friends, their shared experiences forging an unbreakable bond. However, Victor's shadow loomed larger than anyone could have anticipated. Strange occurrences began to plague Ravensbrück once more: doors found ajar in the morning, whispers heard in empty rooms, and dark figures glimpsed out of the corner of one's eye. The townspeople dismissed these as remnants of their trauma, but Nolan and Carter felt an uneasy sense of familiarity. Chapter 10: The Warning. One stormy night, a mysterious package arrived at Sheriff Nolan's office. Inside was a black journal, worn and stained. Its pages were filled with Victor's meticulous handwriting, detailing his thoughts, plans, and twisted philosophies. The final entry chilled Nolan to the bone. The shadows have never left. My legacy lives on in those who embrace the darkness. The game continues. Sheriff Nolan immediately brought the journal to Dr. Carter. They pored over its contents, trying to decipher its meaning. It became clear that Victor had been grooming someone, an apprentice of sorts, to carry on his work. But who could it be? Chapter 11: The Copycat. As Nolan and Carter investigated, another murder rocked Ravensbrück. The victim was discovered in a manner eerily similar to Victor's first kill. The town was thrown into chaos once again, but this time, the fear was tinged with suspicion. Nolan and Carter knew they were dealing with a copycat, someone inspired by Victor's legacy. They revisited old case files, searching for any connection they might have missed. Their search led them to Jacob Thorne, a young man who had once been an inmate at the asylum. Thorne had been released under mysterious circumstances and had since vanished. They believed he was the one Victor had influenced. Chapter 12: The Hunt. Nolan and Carter tracked Thorne to an old farmhouse on the outskirts of town. Inside, they found evidence of Thorne's descent into madness, newspaper clippings about Victor's crimes, notes detailing the town's daily routines, and a disturbing shrine to Victor himself. Their investigation was interrupted by a series of booby traps, a grim reminder of Victor's cunning. As they navigated the dangerous terrain, they found Thorne, who had been expecting them. The ensuing confrontation was brutal, with Thorne displaying a deranged mix of admiration for Victor and hatred for Nolan and Carter. Chapter 13: The Revelation. During the struggle, Thorne revealed a shocking truth: he was not Victor's only protege. There were others, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. Thorne's capture was just the beginning. The real threat was much larger and more insidious. With Thorne apprehended, Nolan and Carter returned to Ravensbrück, but the town's sense of safety was shattered. They realized that the battle against Victor's legacy was far from over. The network of followers he had cultivated was spread far and wide, their loyalty to Victor unwavering. Chapter 14: The New Threat. reports of similar murders began to surface in neighboring towns, each bearing Victor's signature style. Nolan and Carter worked tirelessly, coordinating with law enforcement agencies to track down these new disciples. Each arrest brought them closer to the heart of the network, but it was clear that this fight would be long and arduous. In the midst of their efforts, a chilling message arrived: you cannot stop the shadows. It was a stark reminder that Victor's influence was pervasive and enduring. Nolan and Carter knew they had to dig deeper, uncovering the roots of this dark legacy and eradicating it once and for all. Chapter 15: The Final Battle. Their investigation led them to a secluded compound deep in the woods, where Victor's most devoted followers had gathered. It was a place of unspeakable horrors, a breeding ground for the kind of evil Victor had embodied. Nolan and Carter, joined by a team of elite officers, prepared for a final confrontation. The battle was fierce and relentless. Victor's followers fought with a fanaticism born of deep-seated belief, but Nolan and Carter's resolve was unbreakable. They had come too far to falter now. As they navigated the compound, they discovered a hidden chamber filled with Victor's writings, plans for future attacks, and a chilling manifesto proclaiming the rise of a new order. Chapter 16: The End of the Line. In the heart of the compound, they faced the leader of Victor's disciples, a figure shrouded in darkness. The confrontation was intense, a clash of wills and wits. Nolan and Carter fought with everything they had, determined to end Victor's legacy once and for all. As dawn broke, the compound was secured, and the remaining followers were apprehended. The leader, a man named Lucas, was revealed to be an influential figure who had used his resources to spread Victor's teachings. With Lucas captured, the network began to crumble. Chapter 17: The Dawn of Hope. Ravensbrück and its neighboring towns began the long process of healing. The arrests brought a sense of closure, but the scars remained. Sheriff Nolan and Dr. Carter were hailed as heroes, but they knew the battle against darkness was ongoing. They pledged to remain vigilant, ensuring that Victor's shadow would never again fall over their town. In the quiet moments, Nolan and Carter reflected on their journey, the lives lost, and the battles won. They understood that evil could never be completely eradicated, but it could be fought, contained, and ultimately, overcome. As the town of Ravensbrück rebuilt, its people carried with them the memory of those dark days and the resolve to never let fear rule their lives again. And in the silence of the night, when the wind whispered through the trees, they remembered that though shadows may linger, the light of hope would always shine through.
Don't forget to subscribe.